Well, I have to admit, so far I haven't exactly knocked it out of the park when it comes to my weekly picks. I didn't even give you any picks for week number 4. My apologies for that. I didn't bother going back and looking the week 3 total because I'm sure it wasn't a whole lot better than the week 2 total. So, quarter point of the way through the season, time to reboot, refresh, and get something right this week. So here we go, my week 5 picks for the 2015 NFL season. I'll kick off with the Thursday night action. It looks like Matt Hasselbeck is once again going to be the starter for the Indianapolis Colts on a short week, heading into Houston and taking on Ryan Mallett, DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt, and the Houston Texans. Now, when I look at this game, I look at last week's action and I see a Texans team coming off of an embarrassing blowout loss to the Atlanta Falcons, and I see a Colts team coming in that had Hasselbeck starting last week that had to hang on to win in overtime against the Jacksonville Jaguars of all people. Not good, not good. So on the surface, I would sit there and say, I'll just go ahead and pick the Indianapolis Colts. But frankly, I don't know if I can do that. And no, it's not necessarily because Hasselbeck's starting, because I'm not sure I feel very confident in picking the Colts to beat the Texans with Andrew Luck, because it's not exactly like Andrew Luck was tearing the roof off the joint the first 3 weeks of the season. When I look at this game, it's probably a game the Houston Texans absolutely must have. They would hope to get Arian Foster much more involved in the running game early and often, hopefully be able to control some of the tempo. And I look at this game and I got to say, this is a must-win for the Houston Texans. It's an important game for the Colts, but I don't think it's a must-win. But I do think it's a must-win for the Houston Texans. They have to win this game tonight. And as a result, I think they'll find a way to do so. I really, really do. So I'll pick the Texans to beat the Indianapolis Colts. Now let's transition to the Sunday. There's a lineup of early games. I'll take the Atlanta Falcons to hold fort at home and beat the Washington Redskins. In one of the featured matchups of the early games, you've got the Seahawks with their 2-2 record traveling to Cincinnati to take on the undefeated Bengals. I know the Seahawks technically won Monday night, but they really didn't feel like winners, especially when you throw in the fact that they got a great, great gift in that blown call at the end of the game with KJ Wright batting the ball out of the back of the end zone on Megatron's fumble. But even in that case, just in general, the Seahawks didn't look good. They looked lethargic. They looked okay on defense, but again, it was maybe because of the failures more so on the Lions' end offensively. And then offensively, the Seahawks have nothing. Where you look at the Bengals, and they look like, to me, one of the most balanced, complete teams in the National Football League. And Andy Dalton is playing much better. I got to take the Bengals here. I really do. The Seahawks don't have the benefit of playing at home, and the Bengals, I think, are just a better overall team right now and are definitely playing like it. You've got the Packers hosting the Rams in Lambeau Field. This is a bit of a danger game for the Packers just because that Rams front four can naturally generate a lot of pass rush with guys like Aaron Donald, especially, and Robert Quinn. This is not an easy, just forget about a type of game for Aaron Rodgers. I would expect him to have his troubles because he could have some pressure in his face. I still think the Packers will win the game, but it's definitely a warning game, and I don't think the St. Louis Rams should be totally discredited or disregarded in this matchup. I'll take the Bills coming off of their loss last week to the Giants to go into Tennessee, coming off of a bye week, and beat the Titans. I think Rex Ryan's team will kind of go through the ebbs and flows all season like this, where maybe they'll have one game that they play really, really well, and then the next game not so much. You look at the Titans. This is an organization that is slightly on the upswing, but they're not there yet. But I'll take the Bills to beat the Titans. I'll take the Chiefs, even though they have the same 1-3 record as the Bears, to beat Chicago on Sunday. I just look at the Chiefs and I say that the Bears could have some trouble with Houston and Ali on the outside. And while I think Cutler might have a big day in the passing game, especially if he gets back Alshon Jeffrey in the lineup, I think the Chiefs are just going to be better and they'll find a way to win at home. I'll take the Eagles to beat the Saints. I will take the Buccaneers to beat the Jaguars, and I will take the Ravens to beat the Browns. Now, in terms of the Sunday afternoon games, you've got the Arizona Cardinals smarting a little bit after last week's loss to St. Louis, traveling to Detroit, to Ford Field to take on the winless Detroit Lions. And you look at this matchup, and on paper, you would sit there and say, well, the Cardinals have got this. Their defense is playing relatively well. Their offense is playing pretty well. Carson Palmer, you could argue, is having an MVP type of season, especially for the Cardinals. With that said, though, you look at who the Arizona Cardinals beat the first 3 weeks of the season, and it's not exactly a who's of teams, let's face it. They had a cupcake kind of first couple of games, and they took advantage, and that's what good teams should do. Whereas the Lions have had to play a couple of solid teams and should have, for all intents and purposes, found a way to win that game Monday night, but unfortunately they got lionized. You like how I did that there? I look at Detroit. They're the only winless team left in the NFL. I think they're a little bit better than they're maybe given credit for. They're not a playoff team. I don't even think they're a 500 team this year, just like I thought before the season started. But I think that they end their run as the NFL's remaining winless team this week. I really do. I think they're going to play angry and upset coming off of what happened on Monday night. They're going to be back at home. I think the Lions will find a way to beat the Arizona Cardinals. I suppose that would be my upset of the week. I'll take the Patriots to beat the Cowboys. You know that's going to be the national featured game of the week. Oh, Christ almighty. But seriously, you've got the Patriots coming off of a bye week. They've had 2 weeks to sit back and prepare for a Cowboys team that has now lost 2 games in a row and found a way to lose those 2 games that they frankly should have won, which is not something that good teams do. The Patriots are a good team. They're defending Super Bowl champions. I'd be stunned if they don't go on the road and beat the Cowboys maybe by 2 touchdowns. I'll take the Broncos to beat the Raiders. Hopefully the Raiders will be a little bit more competitive than they've been in years past against Peyton Manning's Broncos teams. You know, Denver's defense is really, really good, which could cause a lot of problems for Derek Carr. I will say this, though. The longer the Raiders can stay in the game, maybe the more pressure they put on Peyton Manning, the better the chance the Raiders could have to actually shock the world and win this one. I just think Denver's defense is too good. It would help for their purposes if they could figure out a way to get a running game going because they really need to. With that defense that they have, you could really take some of the pressure off of Peyton Manning and be a better team than you've been the past few years if you were able to find some type of running game. In the Sunday night matchup, you've got the really, really bad 49ers with the really, really bad quarterback Colin Kaepernick traveling to New York to take on the Giants. This is one of these situations where I look at the Giants and you could definitely make an argument that this could be a 4-0 team, and most certainly they could be. They're not, but they could be. You know, they lost leads late to the Falcons and the Cowboys to start off 0-2. Now they've won 2 games in a row. They're pretty dominant, in my opinion, over the Buffalo Bills. This is a Giants team with back-to-back good victories against the Redskins, against the Bills, heading into a matchup against a bad team that is really struggling offensively. Kaepernick doesn't have a lot of help around him. Kaepernick isn't making good throws. The receivers aren't getting open outside. The offensive line isn't doing that good of a job in the running game. That defense for the 49ers is still okay, but they're definitely not the same they once were, so I'll take the Giants to win on Sunday night. And then we get to the Monday night matchup. You've got the Steelers traveling to San Diego to take on the Chargers. You've got Michael Vick versus Phillip Rivers. In a lot of ways, it just points to me picking Phillip Rivers and the Chargers, especially with Antonio Gates coming back from his 4-game suspension. Now, for the Steelers, though, they've got Martavis Bryant coming back from the 4-game suspension, so it'll be interesting to see how they implement him back into that Steelers passing attack. I expect to see a lot of Le'Veon Bell. I would expect the Steelers to try and do a better job earlier of getting Antonio Brown more involved, getting him in some type of rhythm. A lot of things, like I said, they'll point to this game being one that the Chargers should win. And because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense other than that, and maybe the fact that I thought Vic didn't play that bad, he wasn't really good, but he wasn't very bad last week. Maybe another week he'll get in a little bit better rhythm. They'll trust him a little bit more. He can make a couple of the plays that he didn't make last week when the team needed him to. I'll take the Steelers here perhaps in a bit of surprise to beat the Chargers on Monday night. So again, you're welcome to go against me with your picks in the comment section below. Hopefully I'll do a little bit better and at least get half of the fucking games right this week.